Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for the War Magic Wizard subclass in Baldur's Gate 3. This is a mod that was made by IncogneatoBurrito here. It just released on console, and it's a defense-focused subclass for the Wizard. I think it's really interesting. So you get the Arcane Deflection here at level 2, using your reaction to gain a +2 to armor class or a +4 to saving throws. You have the Tactical Wit, getting a bonus to initiative equal to your intelligence modifier, which is pretty huge considering this game has a D4 initiative die. I also get the abilities Power Surge here and a lot more, which we'll be breaking down. It also has level 20 support, so I'll be showing you level 12 and 20 build. In addition to this, there's also some homebrewed abilities, which are clearly marked, and you can also toggle them on and off. Incognito did an amazing job with this mod. So with the Wizard, for cantrips, I'd recommend grabbing Shocking Grasp if you need to get away. Mage Hand, you can throw health potions, water bottles, and Bone Chill, which can help by making targets not receive healing on the next turn, which does come in handy a little bit later on in the game. Now, I'd recommend having Mage Armor for the early game. Magic Missile, the shield spell still worth taking. Find Familiar can be great too to expend extra damage from enemies onto the Familiar instead of your team. Chromatic Orb's nice for the coverage that it brings. You could even bring False Life if you want a bit more survivability. And Thunder Wave is just a great spell for that pushback. Now, for our ability scores, if you got the Hags here, take your Intelligence to 17. Otherwise, we'll go 16. And I prefer actually to build around our Dexterity, as we're tanky. We want to have the most survivability possible, so I think that this works well. However, you can take the Dexterity points and put them in the Constitution, and you could even take like a Wizard or a dip into the Cleric. And I would recommend going with like the War Cleric or even the Tempest Domain for getting heavy armor. And then you can forego your dexterity altogether because your initiative is going to be dependent on your intelligence instead. So you could alternatively go that route either. It's up to you entirely, but you can swap your dexterity and constitution scores. And here it is, the War Magic by IncogneatoBurrito. So with this, we get our subclass feature Arcane Deflection. So when you're hit with an attack and fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to give a +2 to armor class or +4 to saving throws. So this is good, especially if you don't want to burn through shield spell. And you also have the Tactical Wit there, being able to add to your initiative equal to your intelligence modifier again, which is great. And then there's the Activate War Magic Wizard Homebrew. So there's some additional features for this. Toggling this on will provide you with those features, and what the author feels like is more dynamic experience. And we also get access to spells, Long Strider, if you don't have anyone on your team that has it. Sleep is actually good against goblins in the early game. Fog Cloud can be nice too. And even the False Life is pretty effective there. Fog Cloud just being good for if you have another stealthier character. And we're prepared the following spells there. You can swap off Chromatic Orb for Find Familiar if you prefer. I'm also using Skirby's Progressive Wands. That's what you see on the character there. Not going to use it for the build, but I just want to showcase those because it's really cool and fits alongside this. Now, level 3, we're going to want to grab Scorching Ray, Hold Person, free crits at close range. Scorching Ray can crit. So we want those two there. And then we'll prepare the following spells. Hold Person is being good. We have some other concentrations that we like to hold, but that's a good one to support our team with. Now we get another cantrip here. You could take Booming Blade. I feel like for war, it's not going to be the most effective choice, but it could be a fun one if you wanted it. And Firebolt's nice because if you need to explode something without a use of a spell slot, you can do it that way. Now, once we get here, I'd recommend actually grabbing Mirror Image. We're tanky. We want to make it even tankier. We can grab that and Misty Step because that's our get out of jail free card. We can teleport away or give ourselves 9 bonus to our armor class, or both on the same turn. I like Shadow Blade, obviously a very powerful spell, doesn't fit on here very well. Or Clouded Daggers could also be a potential option. It's a concentration. It's guaranteed damage though, as it doesn't have any checks. The enemy just gets slashed up by it. I would recommend preparing the following spells. And for our first feat, Alert is always a good idea, but since we do get our initiative from Intelligence, it's better for us to actually go with a boost to either Intelligence or our Dexterity there. So I want to go with the Intelligence increase at this level. And with specific gear, we're always going to be going first in combat. And at level 5 here, we get to choose another choice in spell. I always recommend taking Counterspell because you can't learn that from a scroll. And Lightning Bolt are my 2 preferred ones because if you got a Mage Hand throwing water bottles, that's double damage. 48 becomes a bigger number, 96. And then with that, we also can prepare these 2 spells here. I also like to at some point have Mirror Image there. You can also get your Mage Armor from scrolls if you prefer. So that's another option that we do have. Level 6 gives us the subclass feature Power Surge. You've learned how to steal magic from foiled spells. When you successfully interrupt a spell with Counterspell or end an effect with Remove Curse, you get 1 Power Surge charge, which you can use to empower some of your harmful spells, dealing additional force damage equal to half your wizard level. You have a number of these equal to your intelligence modifier, and after a long rest, it'll reset to 1 charge, and you regain 1 after a short rest if you have none. And then, yeah, Power Surge. Pretty fun stuff here. I'll show that off because it's really enjoyable. Counterspell being one of the best spells in the game. Willful Warding's nice too if you're a half elf. You can drop it at your feet to put everyone else to sleep except yourself. And when in doubt, cast Fireball. Haste is a great spell too. Fear for the weapon drops. Even Sleet Storm to stop concentrations if you didn't get in a good position and you don't want to use Counterspell in the future. Sleet Storm is great to stop that as well. Level 7 gives us access to some of the best spells in the game, so you can grab the minor elementals there. Or the ice methods are great because they provide a bit of extra damage and also draw aggro from your team. As a war magic cleric or war magic wizard, you're kind of tanky, but you also want to provide extra support for your team. That's where these two spells come in handy. Ice Storm creates difficult terrain, enemies can slip, break their concentrations, and if a martial class is running towards you and slips, they end their turn. Alternatively, you can grab Confusion too, as I like the duo of these two spells here for crowd control, because you can make enemies have only a 1 in 10 chance of acting normally, otherwise they may just attack their teammates, which is really nice. Level 8 gives us another choice in these spells. I guess we'll take the minor elemental there, and you can actually go back and take some of your previous spells here, like Glyph of Warding if you prefer having that, or if you want some of the earlier level spells. Then for our second feat, I think it's actually best just to go with an increase for intelligence. If you don't have the Constitution Amulet, Warcaster is great, giving you advantage on your Constitution saving throws to hold your concentrations, and Reaction, Shock, and Grasp. Just nice to give ourselves a bit of extra damage. However, that does compete with our other reaction that we will be using for defensive purposes, so I don't always like to take that. Again, Alert is always a nice choice too, and since we're a bit tanky, a good choice if you're growing to level 20 will be the Tough Feat, which will give you an additional 40 health at level 20 and 24 at level 12. Pretty good stuff there. Level 9, Cone of Cold. Conjure Elemental, two best spells in the game. Conjure Elemental, Water Elemental. Its main attack will apply Chilled, which then makes Cone of Cold do double damage. So that's 164 becomes 128. Pretty nice stuff if you ask me. And then we'll prepare the following spells. Sometimes your spells do get swapped around here, so just keep an eye on that. But you can, as a wizard, prepare any spells at any time. Learn them from scrolls, toss them on the old hotbar there, and get going. Level 10, Durable Magic. The magic you channel helps ward off harm. When you're concentrating on a spell, you gain a +2 bonus to armor class and all saving throws. What's cool? Shield of Faith. Boom. +2/+2. We like that. If you want to be really tanky, that is the way to do it. We have lots of concentrations, though, so that's perfect for us. Toll the Dead or Ray of Frost can be a decent choice for cantrips, especially if you just have no spell slots left and you need to hit a high damage. Toll the Dead can be good there. At this point, I think Hold Monster is really good to have. And if you have a team with Hero's Feast, you can use Cloud Kill without your entire team getting hurt by it, so that's a fun option. Blight is also kind of nice for the extra damage against plants, which I guess isn't super often, but it's an option. Sleet Storm, I like Sleet Storm. Being able to stop concentrations is always a good thing. Level 11, we get two of the best spells in the game again, with Chain Lightning being huge. You already know the deal with that, but I really like Odaluk's Freezing Sphere because it's a larger area of effect like Ice Storm, but it deals pure cold damage, so you can also do a really funny cheese with this. I'm just going to mention it briefly here, where you make a bunch of portable freezing spheres, put them on someone, take them somewheres. You can have your entire team using scrolls of it to create them. You can actually just drag them into the inventory and then let them explode. Your character will just nuke somebody with a massive amount of damage. It'll one-shot anything in this game. It's fun to mention that there. However, I do think that the best choice for me at this point was actually to add in Global Vulnerability, but we always got the next levels to take that. So I guess, you know what, we'll take off that. We'll go with that there. I think this is a bit more defensive because we have surfaces and also this here, which just keeps everybody alive and safe. And yeah, you want to use the Boots of Striding if you have your Globe of Invulnerability up, because otherwise if you get shoved, it can really be a bad thing. Level 12, we can then take Chain Lightning, Wall of Ice. Wall of Ice actually got buffed up in patch 8, so that now it breaks a little bit easier and will do proper damage when broken. So that is really nice. I like Wall of Ice. It's just a fun spell. And for our final feat, Dexterity increase can be decent. You could also go with the Alert feat to make sure you always go first. Spell Sniper for Eldritch Blast is pretty fun. And you could even go with something like the Moderately Armored here, which will give you armor proficiency with medium armor and shields. This is great if you're not playing a half elf or human, and your strength or dexterity increases. You could actually have put your dexterity to 17 at the start of the game, and then got this up to 18 and got medium armor proficiency. That's, I guess, another good option you could go with. But I think at level 12, it might actually be better to take the Tough feat, because you can get a crazy high armor class by using just using clothing. Now, you don't have to go past level 12, and honestly, the spells that we'll be selecting here aren't really that important. Again, you can learn them all from scrolls. This will give us the subclass features. With the Deflecting Shroud here at level 14, when you use your Arcane Deflection feature, you can deal force damage equal to half your wizard level to all enemies within 9 meters. Pretty good stuff there, obviously. And we'll continue on there. Again, taking a single level dip can be a nice option, because our last subclass feature was that one there at level 14. So if you wanted to go all in on like a really cool idea, you could add in like the Sword Bard, and the 6 levels of Sword Bard will give you an extra attack, so your War Wizard will now be more melee focused. We can add in the you get in 5 levels of the Fighter and get pretty tanky there, and take the Eldritch Night Fighter, which will also combine and give you more spell casting, and that'll give you heavy armor proficiencies. And then it'll also give you 2 extra feats. So that's actually a pretty good choice as well. We can continue down here. It's entirely your choice. Really at this point, I think I actually might just add in the Fighter Eldritch Knight just because I think that's an interesting subclass because we got all of our abilities there. So just adding in, going to the defense because now we got medium and heavy armor. Since we're dexterity focused, we can actually use the Armor of Agility, which is crazy. Action Surge, that's great on a wizard for the extra spells that you can gain. We'll then go with the Eldritch Knight here, and then cantrips, Booming Blade will be a definite pick, and Minor Illusion. And then we don't care about these spells. We already got all the spells we could ever want and more, so none of that really matters. We're not going to be using spells that we don't already have from the wizard. And the great thing about this is it also gives you the extra. It actually uses intelligence as a spell casting modifier, so it doesn't change anything when we use scrolls. This is actually a really good multi-class. And then we'll take a dexterity increase because we can actually get an extremely high armor class by combining these two. Obviously, level 20 builds are quite powerful. This gives us that extra attack too. If you wanted to do something a little bit funny and do some extra attacks there, we got that. And then the level 6 fighter extra feat, we can actually go about this and max out our dexterity at this point. So it's 20 intelligence, 20 dexterity. And I think that's actually a pretty fun build overall. Again, the tough feat is good because it gives you 40 extra health. And you can even go Warcaster if you didn't want to use the Constitution Amulet. We don't even need the alert feat. We're going to go first, pretty much guaranteed, because there's some items that will actually boost us up. I also want to mention that I'm using the Crimson Sorceress armor mod, which came out last week, and I'm using the Faerun Colors tier dye there to give that blue and white appearance, which I feel looks magical. And again, I mentioned previously, Skirby's Progressive Wands pack there. All right, so we can actually get a crazy armor class by using the Armor of Agility, which adds our full dexterity modifier to our AC. Then we can further take that up a notch if we use specific gear that's going to give us a massive overall armor class increase here. So the evasive shoes as well. The Wondrous Gloves, which don't fit on here unless you were to take the Bard. That takes the armor class up to 30. And then there's the Baldur and Giant Slayer or helmet there for 31 armor class. So yeah, you can get this really tanky if you wanted to, but I actually think the best helmet is the Helmet of Arcane Acuity. In Act 1, you can take the Haste Helmet for the movement speed, but this, every time we do a weapon attack, we get boost to our spell casting. Pretty great stuff because we got the proficiency to wear that. Armor of Agility, early game, you can use the best available armor, but the Adamantine Scale Mail is pretty nice too if you get the weapon armor proficiencies. The Wondrous Gloves are pretty cool stuff, but if we want to be a good debuffer, if you use Shadowblade, I did mention previously, didn't take it, but the Mental Fatigue get applied from your blades is really nice because that basically makes so you land your spells a little bit more frequently. If you're using Shadowblade, the Gloves of Battle Mage's Power will do the same thing the helmet is doing, but it only works if you're using Shadowblade or Divine Smites, which we don't have. Helldust Gloves give you better spell casting and melee damage gets increased, which is great. My personal preference is the Gloves of the Blighter Skies, adding in Thunder and Lightning and Radiant. Whenever we do Thunder, Lightning, or Radiant damage, we can apply 2 turns of Reverberation at 5 stacks. It does a roll, and if they fail, they take Thunder damage, get knocked prone. Pretty good stuff. Evasive Shoes for that armor class boost, but the Boots of Stormy Clamor can also apply Reverberation, which is nice, but I actually think the best choice is either the Disintegrating Nightwalkers or the option of Helldust Boots, because this will prevent you from being moved by foes' spells or actions. What's great is now you can drop down Global from Invulnerability, stand right on the edge, and you're a unmovable freak. It also gives you Hellcrawler, which allows you to do a little teleport with some fire damage. Now, we also like to have the Coruscation Ring there, which will apply Radiating Orbs if we are doing spellcasting and they're lit up. We also got the Ring of Protection there, but we don't need it. We got a crazy high armor class. So I'd actually like to use the Strange Conduit Ring there. Whenever we're concentrating, we do additional 1d4 of psychic damage, which is great because we're going to be concentrating on spells pretty frequently. You could even then go with the Ring of Arcane Synergy. Whenever you do damage with a cantrip from Booming Blade, we get our intelligence modifier added to our damage, so that's a +5 damage. Crusher's Ring for the movement speed is great. You could alternatively add in the Callous Glow Ring. And actually, what's cool is we can actually go about this a whole other way if you want to be more offensive focused, because with the Callous Glow Ring, we do additional radiant damage on our attacks, and then that's going to stack and cause our reverberation to apply there. And then you can put on the Luminous Gloves and then the Radiating Orb gear. So you actually have so many different ways of being like kind of crazy with this build. Adding in that extra radiant damage is kind of nice. So I'm also going to leave on these wands. I think that they're pretty cool, so I'll leave these on. Normally you'd use the Hellrider Longbow for the +3 to initiative, but with this we can actually use the wands. And I know it's for a mod build, it's kind of funny, but we also got the Staff of Spell Power here. If you want to be cheesy, you got the free cast, and you can use that to give yourself a free Conjure Elemental, and then you can swap it off and use a different staff. The Water Elemental is nice because it sets up double damage from Odaluk's Freezing Sphere and Cone of Cold. And then we're just going to swap off this staff, and then you could use a blade because that's kind of what the Warlock, or that's what the Wizard and this multi-class is all about. But we can even use Marka Heshker here because we can actually attack with it. We can get lightning charges with the Kreska's Favor here, and this gives us extra lightning spells. So yeah, if you want to go all in on the offense, you can also do that there. And we're also using Lyconia's Walking Fortress just to give us that massive armor class. We're a war wizard. We're kind of tanky. Fun multi-class. Again, level 20, so it's going to be powerful. Now, since we have the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, if we want to land our spells, what we can actually do is start off by doing an Arrow of Many Targets to get that boosted up. Now, it's also funny as if we're using the staff or the wands here, it'll actually do radiant damage, so this will stack up our reverberation. Obviously, that's something that's not intended, but this will actually give us the reverberation on the enemies there, which is kind of nice. But this gave us a +6 to our spell save DC, so if we do another attack like that, we can then get our spell save DC up as high as possible. And the reason we want that to happen is that we do land our shots, and then actually chain around and took it, an enemy. That was perfect. So now we got our spell save DC up, and that puts it at 33. There's nobody in the game that can actually resist that, so this lets us drop a Odaluk's Freezing Sphere. I prefer to start off combat with this because difficult terrain and a huge area of effect, and also damage that's likely going to take up most of these enemies, and apply Radiating Orbs if not. It actually scared them and brought in more soldiers, so that's perfect because we also have Action Surge from our Eldritch Knight dip. So yeah, if you thought it was bad previously, we can now go ahead again. Now, if we wanted to play a full defensive wizard, we could drop Glow of Invulnerability and kind of protect everybody here, but I'm not satisfied with that. I'm going to do some more damage. Mirror Image would actually take our armor class up even further. We get up to 38 armor class, so that's crazy. But I'm just going to launch another, I guess I don't have the spell slots for it. And Odaluk's Freezing Sphere is weird in the sense that you can't actually upcast it because it was never intended to be upcast. So I will just go with a Ice Storm here because that's still good enough to hit every enemy there and create difficult terrain, and also create Radiating Orbs and drop my frame rate. So that's exactly what we wanted. 4 stacks of Radiating Orbs per enemy. That's actually kind of nuts. So now everybody's got, we effectively all have a +4 to our armor class. And this even is crazier because we didn't even use our Power Surge, and it could have probably taken out a couple extra enemies. We got Mind Blast, which would definitely wipe out those enemies, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do my offhand crossbow, Wizard Blast, that somehow ended up taking out the enemy. I guess I have lightning charges from Marka Heshker. And the War Wizard, despite having high armor class, it can also protect the team by making everyone slip and fall on their ass. This is the best way to prevent your team from taking damage because it feels like the enemies just act really dumb when it comes to ice. There's a little spot that's ice free right there, and they took it, but now there's no other place for them to hide. And here we go. We got our Arcane Deflection. So they needed 29 to hit. They rolled 29. So we can actually save our spell slot and not use shield. This will eat our reaction. However, that gives a +2 in armor class or +4 to saving throws. And this, you can't cast spells other than cantrips until the end of your next turn. So that's the big downside. You actually have to make a decision here. Do I want to go all out on my defense, or do I want to go all out on my spells? So yeah, we're gonna go shield that time around because even though we only needed a +1 to our armor class to survive that, the +2 would have been more than suffice. I don't want to lose the ability to cast spells, so we got to be a little bit more defensive there, or I should say offensive. Now, what we also have is that Water Elemental, probably overkill, but it's Slam Attack. I just want to mention it because not everyone's always aware. If I didn't miss, it would have applied Chill on that, and then we do double cold damage. Water Elementals are great too because they soak up a lot of hits, and they don't get hurt too bad either. And we are getting constant misses because that armor class boost puts our armor class up to 34 there. Yeah, that's crazy. If we had Mirror Image, that would have been 33 armor class. Now they just jumped up right in my face here, which is okay because that allows us to do a melee attack. But we can also do some other stuff here because we can also use the Hellcrawler to teleport away. I'm actually just going to go with a Booming Blade on this first target. I know we're doing Booming Staff. It works. We got our Lightning Charge damage, the extra Thunder damage. It wasn't enough, so we will follow up with... I guess we'll do another attack there. It's not an ideal situation, but this should take them out. Bonk, it was enough, but we also didn't do anything to the target behind them, so that's something that we got to deal with. Unfortunately, using your attack action sometimes feels like it's a worse option because sometimes it's just good to cast spells and try to deal with the enemies that way. You could alternatively add on the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. This will allow you to do like a hold person or hold monster or even confusion as bonus actions, so those are pretty nice options as well. And we also got Magic Missile, which is great because with our lightning charges, we can, or with our radiant orbs, we can actually stack up and apply a lot of debuffs to the enemy too. So if we just want to protect our team, we could go about it that way. I'm just going to go ahead with taking out, I want this target dead, so 95% hit chance thanks to Arcane Acuity. And all that extra radiant damage that popped off was kind of cool. That would have actually applied a lot of radiating orbs if we didn't have that happen, so it would have been nice. But now we're going to try and take out this target here, hopefully. Yep, good. We got him with the wand. Perfect. That was actually not a bad turn overall. Now they're getting a bit more bold because our water just melted. That's the only downside is you only have water or ice for 2 turns, so you got to make the most of it and have the enemies split up and kind of crowd control them that way. But you can also, again, if you had the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, do bonus action spells. All right, here's a time where I'm going to actually use the Arcane Deflection because that's actually going to save us. And you see there, we actually did force damage onto the enemies, and it stacks up a reverberation as well, which is great. I want to slam this target and hope we finally hit. We hit, and we got shield applied on them, which is exactly what we wanted. So we now deal double cold damage, and they're going to get hit there. No, they're not. The elementals never hit. So yeah, we're in a pickle because we don't have any spells that we can cast. However, since we did use Marker Heshker, we get a free casting a lightning bolt, so we'll take it. The little freebie, you got to take those when they give it to you. And we don't have any other really great actions, but we may be able to take someone out with it, just a little Hellcrawler spot drop right there. So we're going to try it anyways, apply some radiating orbs. Wasn't a bad option. Now I got to, I should have probably shot an arrow first. 90% hit chance though, I don't mind it. I'm going to try and use a one of these here. Hit multiple targets. Arrow mini targets does work with that, which is great. And I guess I could do a booming blade for the final action and maybe take one of these targets. No, we're not likely going to take any of these out, but we're going to give it a shot. Oh, we got lucky. We got one target. And we also got our Shatter Mind here. So Command Grovel would completely screw us up. This is where we'd want to use Counterspell. We got Shattered Mind, so we'll go bonk and stop that and then completely obliterate them with a good amount of psychic damage there. So that was actually ideal. And this, we actually can cast spells again. 95% hit chance. We're going to go with a bang on that guy. And then our last target is over here. So, you know what? We'll just drop another Chain Lightning and say goodbye. So that is the War Domain War Magic Wizard subclass by IncogneatoBurrito. Incredible class mod. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed. We'll catch y'all in the next one.